It appears we are now live on YouTube. So
Yep.
I just want to take the opportunity to thank everybody for attending the inaugural meeting of the Kawartha Lakes Off-Road Vehicle Use of City Roads Task Force. Task force that was requested of council to review amendments to legislation. We have several members with us here today. We're going to call the meeting to order and look for a general adoption of our agenda. As posted on the website. Are there any concerns with the agenda or additions requested at this time? Seeing none, we'll move forward with the agenda that we're in. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest that we should be aware of at this time? Again, seeing none. First role of our group here is member introductions and clarifications of roles. I will start and just to identify myself. I'm Brian Robinson, the Director of Public Works. We have 3 member or staff representations to support the group as the task force deems necessary. So that's my role. I'm going to ask, I'll maybe introduce people by name and just allow people to give themselves a brief introduction of themselves and their interest in the group or in this task force specifically. So our 3 councillors are Pat Dunn. Pat?
There we go. Yeah, I'm the councillor for Ward 5. As we make decisions, a lot of it's going to have a direct impact on Ward 5 and the town of Lindsay. So I thought it'd be appropriate to have somebody represent that area. I'm not an ATVer. I do own an ATV that I use once a week every fall, and I go back and forth to the camp on that. But aside from that, I've never been on the trails, so I don't bring a lot of background knowledge about ATVs running on roads and trails, but I am interested.
Thank you, Councillor Dunn. Next councillor we have is Kathleen Seymour Fagan.
Hi there. So I'm Councillor Kathleen Seymour Fagan, and I've got Ward 2, which is Bobcaygeon, Rosedale, Burnt River, Kinmount area, where a lot of the trails are. I've been on an ATV 2 times in my life, and one of them was with the ATV Association and on our trails. And I was able to see the amazing trails that we have and the amazing scenery that we have around here. My interest in this is getting people into Bobcaygeon as well to spend their money because they can't right now. And the tourism aspect of this. I've always been a huge proponent of the tourism industry in this area because it's what keeps us alive here. So yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Kathleen. Next councillor is Tracy Richardson.
Hi, Tracy Richardson, Ward 8. One of my main reasons for wanting to be involved with this is that I've seen a significant use. I'm down in the southern part of the city of Kawartha Lakes, and I'm looking to create some safe and legal connectivity between the trails because I'm kind of between the Victoria Rail Trail and the Ganaraska. I also see with the changing of Bill 107 on the table, plus with unfortunately the pandemic that's happening, we obviously can see a huge growth in backyard tourism, and I think that's not going to change, quickly. So I think right now is the time that we can move forward by bringing some ideas and recommendations that will create some safe trails.
Tracy, as everybody's aware here, there's 4 public and member appointees to the committee. Council has appointed the committee. So, and again, in no particular order, go through the list here. The first member is Steve Lane.
Hi,
Steve,
my name's...
the opportunity just to say hello and introduce yourself.
Sure, thanks, Brian. My name's Steve Lane. I'm too from Bobcaygeon, same as Kathleen, and my parents, the background I had was tourism. My parents owned a resort in Bobcaygeon. I know the significance of tourism dollars coming into the community, and I support you there, Kathleen. The trail system we have in the city of Kawartha Lakes is one of the most unique trail systems in Ontario, and it's a connected, gated system, and I totally support the developing more on the trails and basically looking. I use my ATV. I have an ATV. I use it mostly for hunting. But I do have in the last year volunteered for the Trail Patrol for the Kawartha ATV Association. And I also got involved as a CASI safety trainer, basically training youth and adults on the safe operation of an off-road vehicle, ATV specifically. And I really do support getting connectivity of our trails. That was one of the things that we fell short of when we started to give away some of our trail system to special interest groups. And I'd like to see us develop more of our trails that we do have in the city and promote our tourism.
Thanks, Steve. Next person on the task force is Carolyn Richards.
Hi, everyone. Again, my name is Carolyn Richards. I am the president of Kawartha ATV. I've been president for approximately 8 years now. I'm also president of Kawartha Off-Road Motorcycle Association, which is a part of Kawartha ATV. I have been active with the Ministry of Transportation in some of the legislation changes over the last 5 years, as well as with the Ministry of Tourism, Culture and Sport for promoting tourism in our area. And we manage 2 trail systems. We're stewards to 2 trail systems. One is the trail system we're in City of Kawartha Lakes, the Somerville Forest and the VRTC. We also are stewards for the 5 Points trail system in Trent Lakes. And as an organization, we actually own a portion of that trail system as well. And we have been heavily involved. We incorporated back in 2007 in City of Kawartha Lakes. And that's how long we've been active on the trails as an organization. And so I am hoping to move some things forward. And I spend a lot of time helping different councillors here help resolve issues in their wards regarding off-road vehicles on roads and trails and that. So I'm hoping to be able to work on some solutions here today with everyone.
Thank you, Carolyn. Next is Jason Ramsey.
Hi, I'm not the president of anything and have very limited knowledge of the four-wheeler trails here. I'm a police officer in the City of Kawartha Lakes, formerly of Toronto Police. Avid snowmobiler in the area, so quite familiar with those trails, a lot of which double up with the Kawartha ATV trails. But I'm looking to get more into four-wheeling, as I own one, but currently it's a driveway plow and a gardening tool for me. So I'm not sure what I'll bring to here other than probably a fair knowledge of the laws and how we could help to hopefully make this safer and get some connectivity through the towns and, you know, bring some more people here and keep the people that live here spending their money here.
Thanks, Jason. Appreciate that. And last member of the public committee is Don Mitchell.
Morning, everybody. Yeah, my name's Don Mitchell. I guess one of the things, I've been in the fire service for 43 years. I was deputy chief in City of Kawartha Lakes for 3. And then the municipality of Trent Lakes come and seek me out to see if I would take over the chief's job in the municipality of Trent Lakes, which I did. Having said that, our whole municipality over there, Trent Lakes, encompasses the 5-point system, trail system for the ATVs. So quite familiar with their trails and the incidents and things that take place over there. And we were able some years ago to, working with actually Steve Lane and Carolyn at the time, open up the roads in the municipality of Trent Lakes. I've sat in on meetings down in the Havelock area regarding their opening their roads up. I've ATV'd multiple times in Quebec. I've ATV'd in Alaska and in Mexico. So I hope I can have some knowledge to help council and this task force move ahead.
Thanks, Don. Appreciate that. So the 7 members, the 4 members of the public and the 3 councillors will form the actual task force. Again, a number of people will be supporting the group. I'll do the brief introduction. If there is an interest in the staff to introduce themselves, they're more than welcome to. The first member is Jen Johnson. She's the manager of Parks and Recreation with the City of Kawartha Lakes. Jen? It's up to you. Okay. If you're okay, I'll keep
I'm good.
going.
You got it. Carry on, Ryan.
Thanks.
Brian.
Thanks, Jen. And the next member is Juan Rojas. Juan is the Director of Engineering and Assets with the City of Kawartha Lakes.
Thanks, Brian. So I'll just be brief. So my group oversees all roads and bridges capital projects for reconstruction or resurfacing. So that's sort of my role, the transportation element of it. So we either need to add transportation features to the right of way or model vehicular movement. We would be supplying that to the group if required. Thank you.
Thanks, Juan. So the last member, I guess, of the group that's going to be supporting is Brianne Harrison. Brianne is our administrative assistant within our public work group. I don't believe Brianne has a microphone available to her right now, so I'll introduce Brianne on behalf. She's going to be our recording secretary, taking minutes and agendas and general communications for the group. So that forms the group as a whole. Today, we also have with us Ashley Locke. Ashley Locke is the communications officer for the city, who's supporting, from an initial perspective to get this meeting streamed to YouTube, and we'll be also providing support should we need it for other means such as public surveys, communications, and so on and so forth with the public. So thank you, Ashley. And if that's okay, we'll continue to move forward in the agenda unless anybody has questions about member introductions. The next piece, I guess, will be clarifications of roles. I went over that very briefly as to who's part of the actual task force, who's supporting. So the next item on the agenda is item 5, which is the overview of the terms of reference. So I'm going to just take a brief 5 minutes, if everybody's okay with that, to go through our terms of reference. For those that haven't seen it, I can ask Brianne to email those out to the group at the end of the meeting. I'm pretty sure that they were out as part of the initial recruitment and are currently available on the website for any member of the public that wants to see them. So again, the task force is called the Off-Road Vehicle Use of City Roads Task Force. It was established by council December the 15th, 2020, and we are targeting a fairly quick turnaround to get some recommendations from this group back to council, as early as possible, but looking to end the committee really June of 2021. So the quicker we can turn things around and get recommendations to council, the better. I will flag that the role of this committee is simply to provide guidance and recommendations to council. There's no formal decisions or direction provided from this group to staff. It is a process for most of the committees of council and so on to ultimately provide those recommendations. The group as a whole reports back to through reports through staff to council. The key activities are really the important piece for this group to understand. So there's 6 items here that council has directed the task force to be involved in. The first one is to review and provide input in the use of municipal right-of-ways as trail linkages for off-road vehicles to existing municipal infrastructure and or established publicly accessible trail networks. This includes but is not limited to the connection of the trail system across Lindsay. So that's one of the things we talked about initially through interviews and so on is, the general use of our roads and specifically to connect trail systems. The next activity, item B, is to review and provide recommendations to council under what circumstances and the appropriateness of enabling general access to municipal right-of-ways to designated off-road vehicles. Designated off-road vehicles again. So that's where should we be permitting the use of off-road vehicles on our road allowances. To review, so the next one, C, is to review and provide recommendations to council on restrictions or prohibitions related to the use of off-road vehicles. D is to facilitate public and stakeholder consultation through regular meetings, surveys, and or public meetings as deemed appropriate by the task force relative to the activities. E is to provide an interim report by March 2021. And again, if we can accelerate that process in any way, we will. And the last one is any other recommendations as approved by council. So if the task force is looking for some to expand or modify those activities, there's an option for us to go back to council and seek amendment to those terms of reference to broaden the horizon of this task force. So that's really wanted to flag that. Are there any questions about those specific activities related to the task force before we get going? And seeing none, we'll continue on through with the group. So the next, I guess what I really wanted to focus on here is what triggered this is the amendments to Bill 107. So most people are aware of what's changed there. Effectively, that bill has a broad range of messages to look to open Ontario to other activities and outdoor uses within the city of Kawartha Lakes and other municipalities. Effectively, what it did is it reversed the legislation where roads were prohibited from using ATVs, except where municipalities passed bylaws to enable the use of those roads, to reversing it effectively 180 degrees, saying all roads are open unless the municipality restricts it. So the city of Kawartha Lakes already has an ATV use bylaw in place. We had one in place before the amendments to the bylaw, which clarified which roads we can use. So right now it's roads north of 8. And then the bylaw does clarify designated roads south of 8 for use of off-road vehicles. So that bylaw is in place. It remains current. We did discuss it with council, and the decision was to leave it in place for the time being and continue to review through the terms of the task force. So again, that's a document that if you haven't seen, we will absolutely make sure that is emailed out to all the participants so they're aware of the current bylaws that are in place related to ATV use. I want to express that this is specifically for off-road vehicles. It's not specific to snowmobiles or snowmobiles in particular. There's a completely separate act related to snowmobiles. But this terms of reference is focusing on the use of off-road vehicles and off-road vehicles as defined under the Highway Traffic Act. So if there are no further questions on that, I guess I'll see if there's a show of hands if there are questions. If there's any questions, great. If not, we'll move into the next item on the agenda, which is effectively election of an appointment of a chair. Any questions moving forward? Nope, great. Process for election of a chair and vice chair for the committee. Those, again, the role of the chair is simply to guide these meetings, to set agendas, to coordinate effectively what I'm doing now for meetings moving forward. So are there any nominees? I'm required to ask 3 times, I guess, to see if there are any nominees for a chair. Tracy?
I'd like to nominate Councillor Dunn.
Thank you very much. Councillor Dunn, do you accept that?
I do.
Thank you very much. Is there a seconder for that nomination?
I'll second.
Okay. Thank you very much. Don, thank you. Are there any other nominations or interest in being chair of this committee or of this task force? Are there any other last call? And we will we'll deem that closed. So appreciate it with 1 nominee. I'm assuming by show of hands, there's acceptance in having Pat Dunn being chair. Could just have a show of hands. And that is passed. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. So Pat, passing the torch off to you. I'm wondering if you want to lead the process to elect a vice chair and then continue on with the rest of the meeting.
I can do that.
Thank you
All
very much.
right. I'm now seeking nominations for the position of vice chair. Kathleen Seymour Fagan.
Carolyn Richards.
Okay, and do I have a seconder? Steve Lane. Do we have any further nominations? Carolyn, would you accept that nomination?
Yes.
We have an acceptance. I'll call it one more time. Do we have any further nominations? I declare the nominations closed. And Carolyn Richards is nominated vice chair by acclamation. Congratulations, Carolyn.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, right off the bat, if you don't mind, I'm going to make a couple of comments because we are on YouTube and people are going to see this. I think I think our committee is a truly blue ribbon committee, and I guess I know that because we went through the nominee or through the vetting process. But every person on this committee brings a strength to the committee. Don's worked with establishing the trails up in the 5 points. Steve brings a safety background. Of course, we've got a law enforcement, and it's law enforcement within the town of Lindsay, which I find very important because that's going to be a problem, or it's going to be an issue, or it's going to be whatever we want to call it. And of course, we have Carolyn, who is the go-to person on just about anything ATV. So in my opinion, it's a very, very strong committee, and I congratulate you all and thank you all for joining the committee. Right off the bat, I'm going to ask a couple of questions because they are questions. And my first question will be to Jen. Can you, at our next meeting, give us an overview of that trail that runs east and west? It's not on my current agenda, but I'm sure we're going to be asked questions about it. My understanding on the background is there's certain chunks of it that are leased out for somebody else looking after, and they've got proprietary. So that type of stuff, if at the next meeting you can just sort of tell us how that works, I would appreciate it.
Yeah, that's the Kawartha Trans-Canada Trail that you're speaking of, I believe.
Yeah.
And I sit on that committee. So yes, I can bring that information to the next meeting.
Perfect. And my second question is, and either to Jen or the Director of Engineering, that bridge that crosses at Division Street, is that a bridge that, if in fact it came up on our recommendations, could actually be used for ATVs crossing the river at that point? If you can find that information out for me, I'd really appreciate that. And
Councillor Dunn, sorry
Yeah.
to interrupt. Can you just confirm, is that the Iron Bridge that you're referring to?
yeah, okay, that's yeah. If somebody could just tell me, I saw it about 3 years ago. It looked like a pretty decent bridge, but I don't know whether it's accessible or usable for ATVs. It would be a good question to have the answer to if in fact the question comes up. And my third question goes right to Brian, I think. These joint jurisdiction roads. Now there's some down in Councillor Richardson's area. The one that comes to my mind is Simcoe Street, County Road 2, or whatever they call it. If in fact we wanted to open that road up to ATV travel, do we have to get agreements from the joint jurisdiction people?
So through Councillor Dunn, yes, we would need to collaboratively work with our neighboring municipality. They are joint ownership roads. So we would need to work with them, ensure that they're comfortable with the plans and so on related to those. The other challenge that we're going to have related to some of our plans, obviously our Ministry of Transportation owned roads. So that would be Highway 7 and 35 through the city, where if there's any proposed use crossings and so on of those roads, we would need to work with the ministry to get permission for those activities as well.
Okay, all right, that's fine, yeah. I think, and I don't know, and maybe Carolyn can answer this question. I think because we are with snowmobiles allowed to cross directly from one
Yes,
road.
we can cross on a 90-degree angle on a provincial road such as Highway 35 and Highway 7. It's
Okay.
written in the Highway Traffic Act, Regulation 31603.
Thanks, Carolyn. Go ahead, Tracy.
I just want to make another statement. I know that the Snowmobile Club down this way just got some new negotiations and contracts from MTO just this last week. And I do have them so I can circulate them. I asked for them yesterday.
Okay, the other thing I would like to set up is an FQA or FAQ. Because and we really need Ashley for that. But what I envision us all creating questions that we figure may be asked, so that they can be posted, so that if people have questions about what we're doing or questions about the operations in general, then there's a page they can actually turn to that'll be on our Jump In site. And they'll be able to access those answers fairly easily, and they'll be able to ask questions. And I kind of envision something where if we get a question, it would go to Brianna. She would flow it out to the members of the committee. Those that feel comfortable answering that question could go ahead and answer it, and then the committee could vet the answer so that we're all on the same page, and then the answer could go in with the question. That's how I envision it working. So someone like Jace, when it's a law enforcement question, you know, we're going to get the real deal. I'm just thinking, I think I'm done. So that's my vision. Oh, one more vision as far as moving this forward. I think we can take the low hanging fruit off the table relatively quickly. I sent out emails to all the counselors. 3 of us, of course, are sitting here. 2 I didn't get a response from. One from Emmett, as in none of this affects him because he's north of County Road 8. I don't know where all the problem areas are. Andrew Vale has come back to me already, and he says he's aware of no problem areas as far as the small village hamlets with running ATVs through it. So we have Bobcaygeon as an issue, I think, as to whether or not we're going to get pushback about having ATVs in Bobcaygeon. And of course, we're going to get inquiries about Lindsay. So I would like to knock off the low-hanging fruit, which is the bulk of the city, so that we can really zero in on the problem areas. And we might as well call them problem areas because that's where we always get our most feedback, if that works for everybody. Now, does anybody else want to jump in and say anything? Wow. Okay, yes, Tracy, go ahead.
I might as well get in there, pipe in while I'm at it. Yeah, you know, even when I'm looking at this general task force, I mean, we're going to definitely have some key issues that come out, and I've just written down a few of them. As, like you said, you know, determining what these actual routes are. And, you know, these roads that we are opening will be, you know, routes to the trails. These are not the ATVs or off-road vehicles, new trails. This is an opportunity to get to the trails. So we really have to get that messaging out there. Proactive patrolling, which I know Carolyn's going to be very strong on that. You know, also that, you know, we're not recommending this as a use of transportation. This is just, you know, to enhance what we have going right now and to create safe and legal connectivity throughout the city of Kawartha Lakes. So I think, like, I just, like, when we're jumping out here, I really want to get the opportunity out there, and we need to communicate that, you know, this is how we envision it, and this is, we know it's going to be a work in progress, but we all have to work together. And I think right now too, there's a lot of special interest groups out there, you know, when it comes to trails and whatnot, but we also have to keep in like in our minds right now, is we got to remember that, you know what, we're in a different time in our lives right now because of what's going on around us. And we all have to work together. We're all, you know, trying to, you know, utilize our own municipality, stay local, promote in, you know, tourism, whatnot. So I guess my thoughts is, you know, out there messaging is, you know, one of the main reasons why we're doing this is to create more opportunity for our own residences, because they are going to be, you know, enjoying their backyard tourism a lot more than, say, they used to. So that's just my thoughts.
Okay, Kathleen?
I agree with Tracy. I think we really need to get ahead of it and put a positive spin on it, because if we don't, as we all know, you know, the negatives will hit first. So if we put the positive spin on it, people can refer back to that constantly. And I think that that's very important right now, since everybody's at home behind their keyboard.
Okay, thank you, Steve.
I agree with you, Kathleen, and that in regards to that, we need to be proactive. One of the concerns that a lot of us have or have seen and witnessed in the past years is enforcement and trying to quell some of the problems that we have in certain areas. And I think if we open up rural areas to not have restricted like certain roads, just a rural area, have it open, then it'll quiet down a lot of the concerns, and then we can target into problem areas that might come up in those rural areas. So I agree that with you, Pat, that we need to look at that and address that first, and then start looking at problem areas.
Okay, Caroline?
Yeah, I just wanted to add to Tracy's point. We're seeing a average of a 20% increase in membership to our organizations every year, and we saw an even bigger increase in 2020 because of COVID. And so yes, ATVs aren't going away, side-by-sides aren't going away, and neither are dirt bikes. And so the best way to manage it is to put some controls in place, but also manage it properly to give them a place to go and a way to get to the trails. And it's the only way to do it, because we're seeing more and more people buying new homes in the area, including Lindsay, that are coming up here and purchasing off-road vehicles. And it's become a bigger family sport as well with side-by-sides. So the answer is absolutely managing it properly, for sure.
Okay, Ashley, can you let us know how we go about accessing, like I know it's going to be through you, but if I want to ask a question as Joe Blow citizen, how do I ask a question about the trail or about the opening up of the city?
So exactly as you mentioned, we're going to do a jump in page. So it'll be an engagement platform that's got an open forum. So residents can come right on there, ask their question. It will get filtered through Brienne, which then can be vetted by the community. So I will set up an easy URL. It'll probably be something like jumpinkawarthalakes.ca/off-road vehicle, or OVR, even to make it simplified. And then what we can do is just keep updating it with the FAQs. Anytime we're getting questions that we find are, similar, we might want to clarify with a press release. We can upload all of these meeting minutes to that page as well, so that all the information will be available on kind of like a one view screen. And then anything else you guys want to do, there's survey tools, there's mapping tools. We can get as engaging as you guys would like.
Okay. And we'll probably take advantage of that, I would think, because what I'm going to assign, I guess, for want of a better word, is homework when we have this meeting done, is I'm going to ask for proposed routes or ideas of what routes may look like. So if we have a mapping system, that would really be helpful. Okay, Kathleen?
That's great, Ashley, with the jump in. And it's also going to go on all the social media platforms as well, right? So it can be shared amongst the different community groups?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, Tracy?
I also want to bring this point out. I know this is one of the main things that struck in my mind is when you did the trial pilot project, when you did go north, and then you could wade through the weeds to see when you had problem areas. Like even this, I think it would be a good sell to our community that, this is a trial. We can, launch it as a trial for this year and see how it goes and work out the glitches as well. So that could be part of communication. Just a thought.
Go ahead, Jason.
Just wondering, along with posting an FAQ for the public, is there a way to add on to that? Because I know there's a lot of misconception out there with the public where they think, the ATVs and dirt bikes, it's just the wild, wild west for them. Just to let them know and to reassure them that, the Off-Road Motor Vehicle Act does exist and it has a litany of charges that can be enforced. So these guys aren't just going to be allowed to come through, all ablazing all right through town roads, just to kind of maybe stop that train of thought before it even gets started.
Absolutely. Thank you.
If I may.
Sorry, Don, go ahead.
Yeah, through you, Pat. I know in Trent Lakes, when the roads were opened up, it was really a big education progress. The business people were behind it for sure, because the snowmobiling, actually, the amount of snow we've been having has been dwindling, and they're looking more for the ATVs in our area anyways to help their businesses. But and where I get back to the education, with the Peterborough OPP detachment and dealing with them and a lot of the residents, it gives the residents an opportunity that when somebody was racing up and down the road, they had the opportunity to go out and stop them. Like was said previously, it's not hard to figure out who those people are. And, they were told that by the certain residents that, it's opened up here in Trent Lakes now to go on the roads. You don't need to race from one trailhead to the other. Take your time. And I don't think there's been any issues over there. And I don't think the Peterborough Detachment OPP had any either, but it was an educational program for everybody. There was no doubt about it. And that had to be all spun positively for that.
Good. Kathleen?
Yes, I just have a question. I think it would be for Jen and Brian. When we opened up the area in Somerville, last year, right? Have there been any issues on that pilot project that we did?
Sorry, that would be to me. So we did, council approved. So what had happened is the neighboring municipality, Cavan had reached out to us of the potential to use one of the boundary roads as a linkage for a trail network. We took a report through to council for council to consider that. Council endorsed the use of that road. We then took that information, went back to Cavan Monahan, said we're supportive of that transition and that use of that road, and they chose not to. So they went back to their committee. They said, City of Kawartha Lakes is accepting. Do we want to do it? And they said no. So that pilot didn't actually take off the ground.
We had the other pilot too, right? The one in the north. Remember, Jen?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, Councillor Seymour Fagan. From a trails use perspective, we didn't have any complaints or concerns come our way. As far as the roads concerned, I'm not sure, Brian, if your group had any concerns come your way during that pilot project.
No, apologies. I was thinking about a different one. Yeah, so we haven't, from a public works perspective, we hadn't received any negative complaints or concerns related to anything happening up in that area.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Brian. Oh, hold on. Yeah, Brian, Seabright is kind of an isolated community. The only way to get from Seabright to the rest of the city is on Simcoe Street. Like when they come out of that little enclave of ours, if Simcoe or if Derma says no, we don't want it, what happens?
Well, I guess that's something we'd have to entertain when we get there. So the way boundary roads typically work is we do own to the center line of the road. We own, our half of the road. So there may be an opportunity for us to simply, agree to only use the City of Kawartha Lakes side of the road. I'm not too sure. I guess we'd have to get into that discussion if we got to that roadblock with Simcoe.
Okay, all right, that's fine. Carolyn, go ahead.
We already have that scenario in place with County Road 49 going from Bobcaygeon north. City of Kawartha Lakes has the one side, Peterborough County on the other side, and the City of Kawartha Lakes side is open to off-road vehicles, but the Peterborough County Road side is not.
Okay, all right. All right, so before we've got no correspondence. We have talked about action items. What I would ask everybody to do is to generate 2 or 3 questions and forward them to Brianne. Questions that you think people may ask. So if you can do that over the next little while, and then Brianne can flow them back out to us and we can come up with answers to help populate the frequently asked questions page. The second question is, I would like you to look at Lindsay and Bobcaygeon and come up with suggestions if you were asked to how to get through Bob Cajun or how to connect to Bob Cajun or how to connect the trails in Lindsay. Lindsay, I see two bottlenecks. I see people coming up County Road or City Road 4, which means that would put them onto Angeline Street if they cross the road there, which I have an issue with, but how do we get them so that they can access the trails? And of course, the other spot would be coming up from Pontypool on the actual trail. So I find both of those are the bottleneck issues that may be of concern. But if we can come up with a couple of suggestions for routes, maybe we can zero in on what we're going to recommend to council. Go ahead, Brian.
Councillor Dunn, just wanted to flag, while we were forming this task force, I did some records research back in our files, and I have found some information from the 2011 to 2013 era where there was some review of routing around and through Lindsay. So I will share that to the members on the task force for initial consideration. Again, there's no approved plans. There's nothing, there's still a lot of discussion to have, but these were some contemplated routes that came up through and around the Lindsay area specifically. So I'll share those through Brianne out to this group as well.
Perfect. How does Friday at this time work for everybody?
Yep, works for me.
Okay, works for you. Is our next meeting, today's the 5th. How does the 19th sound?
Sure.
Works for everybody? Okay, next meeting is the 19th of February. Yeah, go ahead, Don.
Yeah, just excuse me. I just wonder if there's any chance, just so I'm not trying to flip through my phone and everything, if we could have a package put together with the ATV trail map, the City Kawartha Lakes map, like the boundary maps, so we have the roads marked on them, and maybe even one just the town of Lindsay and the town of Bob Cajun, just so everyone's familiar and you don't have to keep zooming back and forth.
Good question.
I would actually, I don't mind going and picking one up if a package could be put together that way.
Okay, would that be you, Brian? Or would it be Juan?
That's something that we can have a takeaway. I don't have, direct information to be able to produce and send maps. I have remote electronic access to our mapping GIS system. So that's something likely between Juan and I, we can talk, either his group or perhaps our GIS group can produce some mapping, or our GIS group can send some mapping out. So we'll investigate that.
Okay, thank you.
So you're looking specifically for City of Kawartha Lakes overall map, a focus map on Bob Cajun and a focus map on Lindsay?
Yeah, that works. Anybody else got anything they want to throw in there?
There is a mapping book that was produced a few years ago. I have a copy of an 04. I think there's one that's current that has all the roads in the City of Kawartha Lakes put together by the planning department. That would be maybe a real good access point for us, what Don's looking for.
Okay. Caroline?
So just to add on to Brian's comment, James Auld in our GIS department under Development Services is doing a presentation to council soon for a demo of our viewer. That's going to be a public viewer. So in that view, there's multiple lanes, and I think that's how me and Brian both access it, is through the employee viewer, but there's going to be a public viewer launching relatively soon, which will have road networks, the trails, all that. So that might be the better avenue.
Do you have any kind of a time frame on that, Brian or Juan?
I believe we discussed it at SMT, and I thought it's coming to the February committee of the whole.
Yeah,
so
it is. It's on next week's agenda.
Perfect.
There you go.
Yeah, the only question is when that will be made available to the general public. So again, we'll if James is going to make that immediately available, that's fantastic. If there's any additional information, we'll work with James and get some information sent out.
But I reckon that council, the members of council here may want to raise that at the committee of the whole next week.
Yes.
We can certainly do that.
Yes.
Anything else? Carolyn?
I'll forward the documents for the Highway Traffic Act involving the ATVs and the Off-Road Vehicle Act to Brianna to include in a package for everybody.
Thank you.
And maybe I'm not sure who would have access to it short of driving to the bridges. But I mean, when it comes to connectivity for Lindsay, I think the one main barrier is the river, which separates the trail. So I'm not sure dimensions of the Iron Bridge and the Rainbow Bridge, which would be your two access points. And then comparative to that, I've never driven a side by side, so I have no idea how wide they are to see if those are even feasible options, or if we're going to have to go to a road option.
Well, the Rainbow Bridge is a walking bridge, so it's not available. It's a walking bridge. And I don't know about the Iron Bridge. Jen's going to look into that for us, but I'm not sure. When we made the recommendations back in 2012, the recommendations at that time were crossing the Wellington Street Bridge, like coming up the trail, crossing the Wellington Street Bridge, and then up William Street to the trailhead on the north part. At that particular time, that particular motion failed. Now we've got a brand new council since then, but at the time that was brought forward, it failed because we were looking at going both ways on William Street, so that people could access the downtown, like down to the Cat and the Fiddle, and use the parking lot there, and then they would be able to go and visit any business or restaurant that they chose to visit. That didn't receive, it was close, but that did not receive the full support of a council at that time. But the Rainbow Bridge is a walking bridge, but the Iron Bridge may be and that would be perfect in my opinion for the traffic that's coming up County Road or City Road 4. If they could cross, then they could go south or north on the trail. So it's, that's a very viable option. Steve?
Yeah, I live nearby the Iron Bridge. That was an open bridge back in the day when we didn't have any of the restrictions on that for no fly zone for off-road vehicles coming through. Since then, there has been some issues in regards to the bridge, and they actually have put boulders up there to restrict off-road vehicles coming across that. But it's a very big access to getting across the river point, and I think that would be a real good way of getting across the river. And the Wellington Street Bridge, we planned many years ago of accessing that through Logie Street and going down King and accessing it across Wellington and then up William Street North. So those were some real ways of getting across. But also in the past, I think probably in about 2010, we proposed a bridge, and there was a study that was made by the city in regards to putting a bridge across at the Pillars, which is used to be a river crossing at one time. I don't know, for the trains, I believe, which was taken out. The actual footings are still in the water. We had a company come forward looking at that access point about building a recreational bridge that would meet all the requirements of the Trent waterways and that. And there was a committee formed. I was on that committee, and then the city did the study, and it sort of went from like a $500,000 recreational bridge to 1.6 million, I think, if I recollect back then, going through as a bridge going across. And I think it had all the bells and whistles, like the park benches and so on, lighting and that. But I think also since then, the 2010, I believe, there was another North Trunk line that was proposed about going over the river and connecting that with a recreational bridge. And that recreational bridge lost steam, I think, with council, and they deemed it that they would go underwater. And they did studies on it. And they did that North Trunk under the water of that, in that area, I believe, too. So there is an area there at the pillars that we could actually access a bridge. And I think Jen, I sat in with Jen and I believe Ryan and had a meeting in regards to bringing back some of the history of what we did, the research and so on about getting that recreational bridge across. So we could probably do some further discussion on that and down the road.
Sure. Yeah, that's absolutely valid. Okay, anything further? Okay, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn until the 19th of February
That's at 10 o'clock.
at 10 o'clock, yeah.
Okay.
Carolyn, Kathleen, all those in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you very much. It was an excellent meeting, and I'm looking forward to this committee getting